I'd like to call the October meeting of Cherokee Village City Council to order. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us have a moment of silent prayer, please. Amen. Sally, will you please call the roll?
Adams.
Here.
Hill. Ishmael.
Here.
Christopher.
Here.
Rowland.
Rolling.
Here. Ruhard. Smith.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Quorum established.
Thank you. Next item is approval of tonight's agenda.
I motion we approve. I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Christopher for approval of tonight's agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda's approved. Next item would be public comments on any agenda items. Anyone wish to speak? Please come up to the podium, Mr. Martin.
Since some members of the city council are going to be leaving us in the near future, is it possible to have somebody provide the ordinance that states how a person is supposed to be put on the council in their absence? Because there have been many different ways it's been done since I've been recording it back there. So I would like to have somebody put out for anybody that wants to run for those positions, the ordinance. I didn't say resolution, I said ordinance, the law that states how it's supposed to be done.
In our case, we have a resolution.
A resolution is not a law.
You
And a
know,
law,
but that's our procedure. Whatever's on the
Mr. Attorney, is a
statute.
resolution a law, or is a resolution the will of the council?
This council can't bind future councils on that issue.
Oh, okay, so he said it is not a law, so it is not something that states how it is supposed to be done. So if you passed a law that says this is how it's supposed to be done, that's fine. But I can show the council instances over the years that it was done, let's say in the last 8 years, different ways. So I'm just asking for clarification for anybody that wants to run for those positions. And I don't care if you pass a new one now, doesn't matter. Just so when it happens, that the people know what they have to do in a step-by-step order. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next item is approval of the minutes from the September meeting.
I motion we approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Adams, approval of the minutes for the September meeting to be filed for audit. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Minutes will be so filed. Correspondence, do you have any correspondence?
No, sir.
Okay. Next item will be the financial report.
Move we approve the financial report.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Christophe for approval of the financial report to be filed for audit. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Report shall be so filed. Next, excuse me, next item is the mayor's report. I have about three things. One is that the litigation the city was engaged in, the settlement was approved yesterday by the judge at the courthouse at Ash Flat. The city will have some challenges as we move into 2022 on the financial side, but I think this body will be able to meet those challenges and will be able to provide the services that we have always provided. Also, in reference to what Mr. Martin was alluding to, we have two vacancies that will occur on City Council. Mr. Adams will be leaving the area. This is his last meeting. Mr. Rupert, who is not here tonight, will also be leaving Cherokee Village. So we'll have a vacancy in Ward 2 and Ward 4. And according to what was passed in 2005, anyone wishing to apply for this position will need a petition containing 10 signatures from the persons in the ward where the vacancy exists. The clerk, in this case, our administrative assistant, will advertise the vacancy in the local media, and the next meeting in November, all those candidates will be here to be interviewed by the council, and they will then vote upon who should fill both vacancies. If you're so interested and you live in those wards, I would encourage you to submit your petition, and council will take it from there. But last but not least, since I mentioned Mr. Adams, Jerry, if you would step down here to the podium. I'm not going to stand here and talk. Mr. Adams had not only served on the city council, we were talking about this earlier today, and I think if he completed out his term, he would complete 12 years as a council member, probably one of the longest serving council members in the city of Cherokee Village. He's also been active in the Village Pride Committee and served as its chairman the past few years. So I'd like to present you with this plaque, which reads, "Presented to Jerry Adams in appreciation of service rendered as a council member and chairman of the Village Pride Committee. Your endeavors on behalf of the city are gratefully acknowledged. City of Cherokee Village, October 21, 2021.
Thank you, Les.
Just say a few words. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve on a council, and I made a lot of great friends, maybe a few enemies, but I've enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I appreciate it. And my wife and I are looking forward to head to Georgia, get closer to the kids. So thank you all for everything. Appreciate it.
Those are the only items I have. The next items on the agenda are department reports. As you can see, there's an animal control report. We are in the process of receiving applications for a new animal control officer. And no community service report. District Court, incidentally, District Court will be in this room tomorrow. And here again, I'm sure it's not going to be open to the public. It'll be those who have to appear before the court and attorneys only, and probably mask required, depending on the judge. Any questions on the court report? If none, let's move on to the fire department. Any council member have any questions of Chief Pendarvis? Hearing none, let's move on to P&Z. One thing I would comment there is that we're having new construction occurring in the village, which is a welcome. And I believe I mentioned at the last meeting that this census report from 2020 indicated an increase in the population of the city. And somewhere close to 70 or 80 increase. In the latest issue of the City and Town magazine, which is published by the Municipal League, they rank by population of the various cities. In our immediate Quad City area, Cherokee Village, of course, is the largest, and out of all the cities in the state of Arkansas, it ranks 69th with the current population. Any questions on the P&Z report? Next would be the police department report. Chief Lane is here if you have any questions of him. No question. Moving on to the street department report. Any questions on the street department? Mr. Thompson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just was wondering if you would want to comment on the progress so far on Iroquois Drive. I notice we've had some very strategic overlays there that have certainly helped. I know I traversed that multiple times during the day. I know you've been in conversation with with RDOT on that in the past, and really appreciate your efforts in that. You know, that certainly has made, you know, quite a difference so far with that. We look forward to hopefully the low water bridge replacements next spring, but that certainly is a much easier commute without having the significant dips along those stretches that we had depressions on the outer portions of that roadway. So appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad that RDOT addressed that issue. Let's hope that that one depression on the east side of the road coming this way, that will be fixed permanently, but time will tell. But it's definitely an improvement over what we've had, and I haven't heard anything more on the low water bridge thing. I know the appraiser's been here more than once, and I'm thinking they're probably ready to make offers to the various property owners involved where there's going to have to be some changes made. Next report is no A&P report that I'm aware of. Mr. Smith, you got?
A&P is, we're still moving steady towards 4/8/2024. We actually attended a meeting in Hardy last week. A young lady came in from Casper, Wyoming to explain to us what the process was for them. It's a relative size to our area. Out of the entire thing, two things I took away from it. First of all, it doesn't matter if you're ready for them, they're still going to show up, and there's going to be a lot of them. Second thing I got out of it was typically a drive from Casper, Wyoming to Denver, Colorado was 4 hours. After the eclipse event, that drive took 12 hours. They had thousands of people stranded on the freeways that could not get out of the area because they had been there for 5 days. But as soon as the eclipse was over with, everyone jumped in their cars and decided to go back home. So that left 37,000 people on the freeways trying to get out of Casper. They had a major backup. So to say that all 4 cities are going to have to cooperate and coordinate in this event is an understatement from what I'm starting to gather on the event itself.
I think it'll be a major challenge.
Yes, sir, it will.
Next is the airport report. I think the note there is that they're going to be doing taxiway work. And dovetailing on what you just discussed, Mr. Smith, I can see that the airport might get considerable use.
That was one other thing that was mentioned in that. The governor of Wyoming had attended that event, and they couldn't get the governor out, so they had to bring a helicopter in. So yes, I think it's going to get used.
Next is the Planning and Zoning Commission report. You have a copy of the August SID meeting minutes. Next is the street committee minutes. You have minutes from the Tri-County Solid Waste Board meeting. I think the recycling center here is operating similar to other recycling centers around this region. It's the demand for recyclables that companies wanting to buy them has fallen off, and it's difficult to dispose of them at this point. Welcome Center, there's no report. There's no old business, so let's move on to new business. First item is selection of the city clerk. We had 2 applicants for that position. One withdrew due to taking a job, so we have 1 applicant, and that's Mrs. Penny Trumpy. Mrs. Trumpy, would you want to come up to the podium, please? At this time, if anyone wishes to ask her questions about taking this job, now's the time to do so.
Well, I don't have any questions, but I know Penny from Village Pride and other activities, and she's a great person. I think she's going to be good for the job.
Thank you.
I'm glad she's going to be selected.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to ask or say?
Are you crazy?
I wondered when that was going to come up. Could be, please.
Would you like to say anything yourself?
I'm honored to be, I know there's only 1 application left, but it all fell into place, so I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, to make this official, I need a motion and a second to approve her appointment as city clerk to finish out the term.
I motion we approve.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Thompson to appoint Mrs. Penny Trumpy as the city clerk for the remainder of this year and the finishing the term through 2022.
Roll call.
And we'll need a roll call vote.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Adams,
Yes.
Hill, Ishmael,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Rowland,
Roland.
yes, Rutherford, Smith,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
yes, sorry, it did pass.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
you've been approved, and I'll talk with you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the 2020 audit. This is a little late getting this on the agenda. It probably should have been on there a little earlier this year. I think everybody's received a copy of that back in late spring or early summer.
Yes.
And so what we need to do tonight is acknowledge that we were in receipt of that, and I need a motion to accept the legislative audit for 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Christopher, to approve the acceptance of the legislative audit for 2020. Roll call vote, please.
Adams,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Rowland, Yes. Smith,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
passed.
Motion passes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next item under new business is Resolution 2021 regarding premium pay. Clerk, do you want to read that, or do you want me to read that? Okay.
A resolution adopted, everyone hear me? Okay. A resolution adopting premium pay for designated municipal employees according to the American Rescue Plan. Whereas the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, which was signed into law on March 11, 2021, provides fiscal relief funds to state and local governments and other program areas aimed at mitigating the continuing effects of the pandemic. And whereas ARPA is intended to provide support to local government in responding to the impact of COVID-19 and in their efforts to contain COVID-19, remove it from their communities, residents, and businesses. And whereas ARPA provides stimulus grant funds permitting cities and towns the options of providing premium pay for eligible employees in order to provide additional support to those who have and will bear the greatest health risk because of their service in critical infrastructure sectors. And whereas the United States Department of the Treasury, here in the Treasury, has issued guidance and an interim final rule, herein IFR, regarding the use of ARPA funds. And whereas premium pay is defined by the IFR as additional compensation for eligible workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency. And whereas the IFR provides that eligible workers are those who have been and continue to rely on to maintain continuity of operations in essential critical infrastructure sectors, including those who are critical to protecting the health and well-being of their communities. And whereas Treasury recognizes essential critical infrastructure sectors as healthcare, public health and safety, childcare, education, sanitation, transportation, food production, and services, and also permits each city's chief executive to add additional sectors to the list if they are deemed critical to protect the health and well-being of its residents. And whereas essential work involves regular in-person interactions or regular physical handling of items that are also handled by others. However, it does not include virtual work from the household. Whereas the IFR emphasizes the need for recipients to prioritize premium pay for lower income workers most impacted by the pandemic. And now therefore it be resolved by the Cherokee Village City Council with concurrence of the mayor that Section 1, the City of Cherokee Village hereby appropriates a total amount of $190,000 to provide premium pay to eligible workers employed by the city during the period of March 1st, 2020 through May 31st, 2021, who meet the following ARPA eligibility criteria. 1. An essential worker means workers necessary to maintain the continuity of operations of essential critical infrastructures. 2. Including any additional city workers added by the city's chief executive. 3. An eligible worker performing eligible work, which means regular in-person interaction or regular physical handling of items that were handled by others. Section 2. It is the intention of the City of Cherokee Village to provide each worker premium pay on a pay scale corresponding to the risk involved as an eligible worker in in-person interaction applicable to the work performed. Section 3. The City of Cherokee Village shall pay all applicable employee payroll contributions from the ARPA funds. Section 4. The City Council of Cherokee Village adopts, ratifies, and enacts premium pay from Section 603 of the ARPA. Section 5. Nothing in this resolution shall be construed as constituting an employment contract or as altering, modifying,
Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, how many employees do we estimate this is going to affect?
35,
35?
yes.
Is this going to be straight across the board? I mean, I see the way it's worded here.
Most all departments, I would say all departments in the city will be recipient.
Okay.
Those departments that are, naturally they're departments of higher risk, for example, the fire department, police department, administrative assistant in the front office who had contact with people every day after the 3-month period that the city hall was closed because we were still permitting people taking temperatures and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And people who are out in the, like city inspector out doing inspections, coming in contact with property owners, etc.
Mayor, it's my understanding that the police and fire would be getting a little bit more than,
Because of the risk involved.
is there a dollar value in it? Or?
Yes, there is, but that's kind of individual payment.
You don't want to say.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
how will that apply to like the city clerk and yourself?
As far as I know, according to the municipal league, unless I hear otherwise, the elected officials aren't eligible. I'll inquire that because I did see something in the newspaper today about it, so I'm going to see if that applies. As far as I'm concerned, I would rather, if I am eligible, I'd take that money and let it go to an employee or into the employee fund, ARPA.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Thompson.
So for clarification purposes for the general public, there's not any compensation that would be in the past that has occurred, at least in the last 7 years, of any city council person. We have not received any compensation, nor are we going to participate in these ARPA funds. In addition, as you clarified, both the mayor and the city clerk, which are elected positions, are not participating in this. But it's also my understanding, Mr. Mayor, that you've also followed not only the Department of Treasury guidelines, but also the Municipal League guidelines in the application of administering these funds out to those critical employees of the city.
Yeah, essentially how this will work, the employees will be given 2 options. They either can take this payment in a lump sum or in a monthly payment. Furthermore, each employee has to sign a declaration of work, so to speak, that their work that they did during this time was on-site work, not at home. And their supervisor must sign a similar statement verifying their work. So the U.S. Treasury is keeping a tight rein on all this. We do have additional money in the ARPA funds, and it would be our intent sometime in 2022 that additional payment would be made to employees along the same lines. So if there are no other comments or questions, entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
I do have one.
Yes,
When
Mr.
will these funds be handed out, distributed? When?
Hopefully next month,
Next month.
as soon as we get the documentation taken care of.
Mr. Sokowski, did you want to say something?
If I'm allowed to, I'd like to just say something. Council was going to say it for me, and I wouldn't have to. Sorry. I like everything about this, and I thought you were going there. Section 2 basically states it's at risk, and I understand police department, fire department contact people, but as well as my department contacts people. But we also, everybody that goes out and contacts these people comes into our departments and contacts the people that are not out there with us. So my way of thinking, I guess, and essentially, we all have the same exposure. Whether it's a police officer going out, talking to somebody and going in somebody's house, they still come back to this building, to the police department, where your secretaries work and everybody else and are in contact with each other. So I think it would be fair just to say everybody has the same amount of contact, whether your job or not. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
It's a good point.
I agree.
Entertain a motion.
I motion we approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Thompson to approve adoption of this resolution. Roll call vote, please.
Adams,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Rowland,
Roll.
Smith,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
motion passed.
Hey, thank you. I'm sure the employees will appreciate it. Any comments on any other city-related business?
Mr. Martin?
Mr. Martin.
My comment at the beginning of the session didn't quite get answered. You did give me that wording, but you heard from your lawyer and he says, that was done in 2005 was what you said, and he can't hold any other council members to that resolution. So I would ask the council if they would reaffirm that resolution that he is holding there, so it makes this council that affirms how the people are appointed to their positions that are being appointed from the absentee council members, if that makes sense. Do you understand what I'm asking? It's just you guys reaffirm it, so it's...
Excuse me interrupting you, Mr. Martin. Do we need to do that? Okay.
Why wouldn't they do that? If you said that it's a 2005 resolution, and you said these council members cannot be held to that 2005 resolution, all I'm asking for them to do, like he does at the beginning of the years and several times, he reaffirms resolutions that he wants to make sure that council will carry through that year. So I am asking this council to do the same thing. Why is it a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, but they're not disaffirming that resolution.
Oh, so it is good as long as nobody opposes it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. No other comments? Entertain a motion. Oh, yes. Mr. Kulik?
Yeah, can I use this time just to remind everybody that roadside pickup is this Saturday, and Village Pride is working with King Roads, and we could use every single volunteer. So please spread the word. I think you look on the streets and you can see all the garbage everywhere, and we really pick up a lot. It's going to be 9 o'clock over at King Roads. They are going to supply coffee and donuts in the morning, and then he is going to be manning hot dogs and hamburgers afterwards. So,
No, as in the past, I mean, if we have things to do on Saturday, we can get there earlier,
Yes.
like 7 o'clock, and they'll have stuff in the lobby for us.
will they?
That's what they've done in the past for us.
Oh, okay. Because he said he'd be there about 8.
8, okay. I know how to get in the back door.
But anyhow, if you guys would do that, we really appreciate it. So, thanks.
Thank you, Ed.
Any other comments? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Adams, his final act as a council member. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned.